When it comes to building a new dynasty in the NBA, few franchises have a track record as solid as the Golden State Warriors. Known for their ability to reinvent the game and set trends on the court, the Warriors are never stagnant. Now, in the face of an inevitable generational shift, the California-based organization is once again moving wisely, designing a future that promises to be as glorious as its recent past. The foundation of this new phase is not being built solely through technical planning or cold administrative decisions. It is being forged through strategic choices that combine talent, culture, and global expansion. And two names have increasingly stood out in this narrative: Ren Abando and Kaisoto. Two Filipino players who, beyond their sporting impact, carry the hope of a new audience, a new emotional connection, and a fresh identity for the team. Ren Abando's emergence on the Warriors' radar is more than a simple bet on youth. It's a move that symbolizes boldness and sensitivity. The young athlete, who shone brightly during the Basketball World Cup, caught attention not only for his technical skill, but for his ability to inspire. Fast, creative, resilient, and above all, versatile, he fits perfectly within the Warriors' philosophy, where offensive fluidity, constant positional interchange, and defensive intensity are essential. And it's not just on the court that Abando represents an opportunity. Off the court, his arrival carries the weight of a deep connection with the Filipino community in the Bay Area, a passionate, loyal fan base that has historically embraced basketball as a form of identity. Abando could become a symbol, a point of unity between a local crowd and a growing international fan base. For any franchise with global ambitions, that is a true treasure. But Abando is not alone in this mission of renewal. Kaisoto, standing at 7'3" with a dominant presence in the paint, emerges as another pillar of this new project. He represents something the Warriors currently lack in abundance: size and elite rim protection. His wingspan and defensive instincts place him in a rare and highly desirable profile for a league that is increasingly physically demanding. Sotto, unlike many players of his stature, isn't limited to defense. He's been intensely working on his mid-range jumper, something that, if fully developed, could make him a lethal weapon in pick-and-pop situations and overall offensive spacing. With the Warriors constantly betting on movement-based plays, this evolution could unlock new tactical possibilities for the team. Moreover, his international background, with stints in the Australian League and other high-level competitions, proves he's already been tested in high-pressure, fast-paced environments comparable to the NBA. This experience may be a decisive factor in easing his adaptation. The combination of Abando and Sotto has the potential to become a turning point in the Warriors' rebuilding project. With a veteran core still active, led by names who have hoisted trophies and etched their names in history, the young players' initial role will be to absorb, learn, and grow. But if they can accelerate that process, the impact could be immediate. The challenge lies primarily in integration. The Warriors' system is one of the most complex in the league, not because of complicated tactics, but due to the demand for collective synchronicity, off-ball discipline, and a team-first mentality. For Abando and Sotto to thrive, they must dive headfirst into that culture. And fortunately, they seem willing to do just that. Behind this process is a coaching staff that has stood out for years for its ability to develop talent. Steve Kerr, with his championship pedigree and deep understanding of the game, knows success doesn't rely solely on stars, but on the machine as a whole. Once again, he'll have new and promising pieces to integrate into the finely tuned clockwork that is the Golden State Warriors. We also can't ignore the value of having veterans as mentors, players who've experienced the finals, who know the shortcuts to success and the dangers of distraction. For the rookies, sharing the locker room with such leaders is a privilege, and if seized properly, it can accelerate their growth exponentially. But this transition needs careful management. Throwing young talent on the court and expecting it to work like magic isn't enough. Minutes must be balanced, expectations adjusted, and collective confidence kept high. This requires sensitivity from both the front office and the coaching staff, something the Warriors fortunately possess in abundance. Beyond all that, there is the emotional factor. These young players don't arrive just as athletes. They arrive with stories, backgrounds, and dreams that now intertwine with the fate of the franchise. For thousands of fans in the Philippines and around the world, they represent the realization of a possibility, the chance to see someone like them succeed on basketball's grandest stage. This factor cannot be measured by statistics, but it matters. It drives fandom, it sells jerseys, it creates bonds. And the Warriors, masters at uniting passion and performance, know exactly how to use this to their advantage. The arrival of players like Igor Demen also adds to this scenario of strategic reconstruction. With his talent at the point guard position and refined court vision, he could be the missing link between the interior game and the perimeter. A facilitator who enhances offensive fluidity while easing the burden on scorers, allowing for freer, more spontaneous movement, a hallmark of the Warriors' style. Demen represents the kind of piece that, while low profile, can make all the difference in the rotation. His style favors the collective, and he makes quick decisions, something essential on a team that plays at high speed. With him on the court, the offensive transition could take on new dimensions, more fluidity, more intelligence, more options. With these names joining the roster, one inevitable question begins to surface. Are we witnessing the rise of the next golden generation of the Golden State Warriors? It's too soon to answer, but the signs are promising. There's talent, there's the right mindset, there's structure, and above all, there's a plan. That plan involves preserving what worked in the past, like aggressive defense, unpredictable offense, and a strong team culture, while making room for the new, the bold, the unexpected. It's precisely this combination that made the Warriors one of the most admired franchises of the 21st century. The beauty of this moment lies in its uncertainty. No one knows exactly how these players will adapt, whether they'll become stars, pillars, or just complementary pieces. But it's precisely that uncertainty that makes the journey so captivating, the opportunity to follow, step by step, the construction of something special, once again. The international impact of this new core also cannot be ignored. The NBA, increasingly global, welcomes expansion into Asian markets. And with two Filipino players rising within one of the league's most media-savvy franchises, international media attention will be inevitable. This opens doors, attracts investments, and builds fan loyalty. And for the Warriors, it's a unique opportunity to expand their global reach even further. With all this at stake, the upcoming season promises to be one of the most intriguing in recent years, not just because of the results on the court, but because of what those results will mean for the future. Every drive by Abando, every block by Sotto, every assist by Demen will be seen as a step towards something new, the rebuilding of a legacy that's far from over. This new era for the Warriors isn't just about trades and signings. It's the reflection of a mindset that values both the present and the future, that respects the past but isn't afraid of change, that understands greatness doesn't reside only in championships, but in the ability to evolve. What comes next is uncertain but promising. The foundation is being laid now, and if the winds continue to blow in the right direction, what we'll witness in the coming years might be even more impressive than what has already been achieved. The true power of a franchise lies not only in its ability to win trophies, but in how it responds to inevitable change. When cycles come to an end, only a few teams can reinvent themselves without losing their essence. In this regard, the Golden State Warriors are proving that they not only know how to play, but also how to plan, adapt, and survive the tides of time. Ren Abando, Kaisoto, and Igor Demen don't just represent a technical future. They are, in practice, the embodiment of a new vision. Their presence shows that the Warriors are paying attention to the world beyond American courts, a world where talent can be born anywhere, from a village in the Philippines to a community gym in Eastern Europe. And more than that, the next star may not come from the NCAA or the draft lottery, but from raw talent, shaped by sweat and a desire to win. At the same time, this new generation of players is entering one of the most sophisticated ecosystems in the NBA. The Warriors' tactical system demands more than individual skill. It requires game IQ, split-second decision-making, and a collective effort that transcends ego. That's why the real tests for these players are still ahead. Imagine Abando positioned on the wing, guarding explosive point guards or switching against physical forwards in the West. Imagine Sotto having to contain seasoned bigs like Jokic, Sabonis, or Wembanyama. Picture Demen controlling the pace, responsible for finding shooters on the move and avoiding turnovers. That is the real terrain of the NBA, and it's on that stage they'll have to prove they belong. But if there's something that sets Golden State apart, it's their welcoming culture. The franchise has a real history of giving young players room to grow. Jordan Poole is proof of that. Kevin Looney, underestimated for years, became a key piece in crucial moments. Andrew Wiggins, written off after his stint in Minnesota, was reborn there. All of this was only possible because of the environment that was built. There's no miracle. There's a method. And that method is based on the belief that collective basketball can bring out the best in any player, so long as he's willing to submit to something greater than himself. This is where Steve Kerr's role comes in. More than just a coach, he's a manager of people. Kerr knows how to turn athletes into teammates, how to make a rookie respect a veteran without silencing his own voice, how to make everyone believe they're rowing in the same direction. His presence during this transition may be the franchise's greatest asset. Behind every play drawn on the whiteboard, there's a code of conduct that governs daily life in the locker room, and that's the culture the newcomers must absorb. It's not enough to know how to shoot, run, or block. You need to understand that playing basketball for the Warriors is also a matter of identity. That identity was built with sweat, frustrations, and triumphs. And now it's being handed over to a new generation, one that must carry the torch responsibly. The eyes of the world will be on Abando, Sotto, and Demen, but they will also be on how the franchise guides them through this process. And this attention won't come only from the United States. It comes from Asia, from Europe, from across the globe. The arrival of players like Sotto and Abando has already triggered a significant increase in digital engagement, merchandise sales, and international media interest. The NBA is a business, and few know how to turn plays into narratives and athletes into icons like the Warriors. That's why every step the rookies take will be thoroughly documented. Their minutes on the court, their mistakes, their interviews, their interactions with fans, everything counts. And while this adds a layer of pressure, it also represents a golden opportunity. It's a chance to move from promise to protagonist. But that transformation doesn't happen alone. It requires structure. And the Warriors are already moving toward that. Reports indicate that the player development department has been strengthened. Assistant coaches focused on individual fundamentals have been hired. And the rookie integration programs are being adjusted to cater to international players who must understand not only the game, but the culture of the league. More than ever, the Golden State Warriors are building a long-term mechanism. The names arriving today were chosen not just for their talent, but for their compatibility with this project. They weren't brought in to put out fires, but to plant the seeds for the next harvest. The franchise's intention is clear: to create a smooth transition between the stars who defined the last decade and the names that soon will be on billboards, in commercials, and maybe even on the covers of sports magazines. For that, time is needed. But faith is needed too. And by all indications, the Warriors have plenty of that. This belief in renewal is reflected in subtle but deep decisions. The choice to give significant minutes to rookies in the preseason. The involvement of veterans in the young players' training. The psychological and emotional support being offered. All of it signals that the plan is not improvised. It is thoughtful. It is coordinated. Meanwhile, the fans are watching. Some, still emotionally attached to recent titles, may resist the idea of change, but the true fan understands. It's not about forgetting the past. It's about ensuring that the past inspires the future, not replaces it. The thrill of seeing new names rising, wearing the same jersey that once shone in epic finals, is part of the natural cycle of a great team. What matters is that these new names understand the weight they carry, not as a burden, but as a sacred responsibility. Gradually, roles begin to shift. Yesterday's stars become mentors. Today's youngsters begin to learn. And together, they build something that goes beyond basketball. They build continuity. They build an idea. The Golden State Warriors aren't just developing players. They're forming successors. They're preparing the next wave of leaders, of athletes who may one day lift trophies, inspire new generations, and write unforgettable chapters. The presence of Ren Abando Kaisoto and Igor Demen in this process is no coincidence. It is the result of a sharp eye, of an analysis that goes beyond stats and highlights. The franchise is betting on personalities, on stories, on potential. Every step these players take from now on will be closely watched, and every breakthrough will be celebrated not just as an individual victory, but as a sign that the plan is working. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about winning. It's about how you build the win. It's about who you bring with you along the way. It's about honoring those who came before and preparing the ground for those who will come next. That is the Warriors' mindset. And that is the mission of anyone who wears this jersey. At the heart of it all lies identity, a word that in many clubs becomes an empty slogan. But in San Francisco, it has become the foundation that supports every decision. That's why integrating newcomers like Abando, Sotto, and Demen isn't just about giving them playing time. It's about shaping mentality, nurturing values, and ensuring that every player who walks through that door understands the Warriors play for something bigger. Ren Abando, for instance, represents more than just an explosive wing with athletic potential. He carries something rare, hunger, a hunger to learn, to prove himself, to put his country on the map. And this kind of player, when placed in an environment that values effort, humility, and commitment, tends to blossom quickly. He's not chasing stardom from the start. He wants to become part of the whole, and that brings him even closer to the soul of the Golden State Warriors. Kaisoto, on the other hand, brings a lesson in perseverance. After years off the traditional NBA radar, he stayed the course, polishing his game in alternative leagues, handling criticism, and using silence as fuel. He arrives in San Francisco with one clear goal: to show he can not only compete with the best, but beat them. And his presence in the paint is exactly what the team needs to balance a rotation that has often relied too heavily on small ball. Igor Demen, though less talked about, might be the piece that turns a good team into a collective machine. His playing style is quiet but deadly. He doesn't need the spotlight to shine. Just let the ball pass through his hands. With a high basketball IQ and natural facilitator instincts, Demen is the perfect profile to play alongside scorers. Whether by finding space on the perimeter or initiating fast breaks with precision, these three together could form the backbone of a new era. An era that respects the fluidity that made the Warriors legendary, but also introduces a new element: structural diversity. For the first time in years, Golden State will have the chance to vary its style without losing its identity. They'll be able to play more physical lineups, defend the paint with more aggression, and still maintain the elegance of their transition plays. But every silent revolution takes time, and above all, it demands flawless execution. In this regard, the Warriors are paying attention to every detail. Internally, the team has already put together a dedicated staff to adapt these talents to the system. There are tactical scenario simulations, comparative video sessions, and even tutorials led by veterans guiding the rookies on screen navigation, defensive coverage, and on-court communication. This integration goes beyond technique. It's almost spiritual, because for the Warriors, basketball is a language. It's a conversation between players, spoken through gestures, glances, cuts, and passes. And to fit into that symphony, a player needs more than talent. He must listen, understand, and respond. The locker room is being prepared for that too. Players like Draymond Green, known for their intensity, are being encouraged to channel that energy into mentorship. What used to be direct confrontation is now transforming into active guidance. The goal is not only to develop players, but leaders. And every post-practice conversation, every exchange behind the scenes, every corrected posture is part of a larger script. Behind the scenes, the physical performance department is also stepping in. The focus is on transforming these young men into athletes capable of withstanding the grind of a full NBA season, something that can be a shock for many foreign players. Sotto's physical training, for example, includes strengthening knees, hips, and lateral mobility, critical for a center in this league. For Abando, the emphasis is on gaining lean mass without compromising his explosive speed. However, not everything can be planned. There will be difficult moments, games where the rookies make costly, even decisive mistakes, nights when fans question their presence on the floor. But that's the price of growth, and the Warriors are willing to pay it because they know the return could be massive. There's also an emotional element running through all of this: hope. The hope of a fan who sees in Abando's number 0 jersey a new reason to believe. The hope of a young Filipino child who, for the first time, can imagine themselves not just as a fan, but as the star. The hope that even in a league defined by million-dollar contracts and inflated egos, it's still possible to win through teamwork, ethics, and careful planning. And that's exactly why this rebuild has a real shot at success. The NBA landscape is shifting. The game is more versatile, more global, more strategic. And the Warriors are poised to lead that transformation. They have the pieces, the mindset, and now, a new story to tell. The post-dynasty era doesn't have to be a mourning. It can be a celebration of continuity. And if this plan works, if Abando finds his place, if Sotto dominates the paint, if Demen brings order to chaos, then the Warriors won't just have reinvented their team. They will have reinvented what it means to be a winning franchise. And in this new chapter, every pass, every screen, every basket will be more than a play. It will be a building block. It will be proof that it's possible to reinvent yourself with elegance, courage, and vision. It will be the legacy renewing itself before our very eyes. If you've made it this far, it means that, just like us, you believe the future of basketball is being written right now, and that the next generation of the Warriors could mark a new, glorious chapter in NBA history. If this content held your attention, inspired you, or made you see the Warriors in a new light, go ahead and hit the like button. That helps us a lot in continuing to bring deep analysis, stories beyond the stats, and everything happening behind the scenes in the league. And of course, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, now's the time. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell, and join our community. Here we live basketball for real, with passion, knowledge, and respect for every detail. We'll see you in the next video, because the Warriors' story is far from over, and you're going to want to be here for every step of this new era.